Please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Trustee Burkini, can you read the land acknowledgement? You have a copy?
Yep, just a moment. The Pacifica School District acknowledges that we gather on the unceded ancestral homelands of the Ramaytush Ohlone people. As guests, we humbly extend our gratitude to the Ramaytush Ohlone elders and community. We recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland, and we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples. As the original stewards of this land, the Ramaytush Ohlone understand the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of maintaining harmony with nature. Likewise, Pacifica School District commits to teaching our school community how to be responsible stewards of this land.
Okay, Barbara, will you take the roll?
Trustee Bernal,
Here.
trustee Burkini,
Here.
trustee Doug, it is absent, trustee Hart. Here. Trustee Ramos. Here.
The district records the audio portion of the meetings. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. All public comments must be made in person unless a board member will attend remotely or as otherwise specified on the board agenda. Speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please complete a request card with your name, address, and the item number and submit it to the board president or superintendent. You will be called to address the board and may speak for up to 3 minutes. Please note the public is welcome to provide comment to the board. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes unless extended or limited by a vote of the board. A maximum of 20 minutes, unless extended by the board, is allocated for each subject discussed. The Brown Act open meeting regulations under which the board must operate do not allow board members to comment on non-agenda items or information that you may bring up that are not on the agenda. Additionally, no action can be taken. However, the board may give direction to the staff following a comment. Okay. Item number 6, approval of the agenda. I'd like to change item 12E to be the first item before 12A. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with that change? Do I have a second?
I'll second. All in favor? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, report out on closed session topics. Okay, there's only one item. There's nothing to report except for one.
B, we approved.
Yeah, that's one I have here. D.
It's B.
Hmm?
These negotiations. is
Okay.
Letter B.
Okay, that's a different one than here. So item B, the board approved with a vote to 4-0. Okay. 8, reorganization. The annual board reorganization, election of 2026 officers and appointment of secretary to the board.
So we'll now take nominations for the board president for 2026.
Okay, I'd like to nominate Linda Burkini as president. Is,
All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 3-0. I mean, 3-1. You're not a no.
well,
Yeah.
yeah. 3-0. I think.
Yeah.
Okay, we will now take nominations for vice president.
I'll make a motion to nominate Vern Villalobos.
I'll second. Favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes 3-0.
Okay, and we'll now take nominations for clerk.
I'd like to make a nomination for Bridget Hart.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll
Oh,
second.
you can't nominate second.
I'll second.
Yeah.
All in
We would
favor,
forget.
please raise your hands.
Okay, and we will now take action.
3-0.
Hmm?
Motion passes 3-0.
Okay.
Something's echoing. I think my
Yeah.
mic's on too loud, Joey.
Okay, we'll now take action to appoint Carissa Bowman, interim superintendent, as secretary of the board. Do I have a motion to appoint Carissa J. Bowman, interim superintendent, as secretary of the board? Do I have a second?
I'll second. All in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes 4-0.
I am now getting up and going.
So just give us a second to adjust.
Don't run too fast. It was on. It's just really. No, what that is.
All right, our next item is resolution 2025-12-16-A, delegation of authority. Speaker, Dr. Carissa Bowman.
The reorganization, the Board of Trustees will appoint a secretary by bylaw 9100 organizations, board bylaw 9121 president, board bylaw 9121.1 vice president, and board bylaw 9122 secretary, and board bylaw 9123 clerk. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees elect officers for the 2026 calendar year, appoint president, vice president, clerk, and appoint the superintendent as the secretary to the board.
Are there any questions regarding this resolution? Oh, we did that? I'm not sure. Did we do the resolution? Okay, do I have a motion to approve resolution 2025-12-16-A? Okay. And the vote to approve? We had motion one. Second,
Also.
all right, next approval of resolution 2025-12-16-B.
Education Code 52632 states, each order drawn on funds of school districts shall be signed by at least the majority of the members of the governing board of the district or by person or persons authorized by the governing board to sign in its name. It is recommended that the board approve resolution 2026-12-16-B, authorizing Carissa J. Bowman, Martha Ladd, Rachel Romo, Carla Chavez Torres, and Stacy Stoffer as persons who can sign in the name of the board.
Any questions? All right, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
Passes 4-0.
right? All right, approval of the 2026-2027 school year regular board meeting calendar. Carissa.
All the meetings are held on Wednesday unless otherwise specified. Below are the regular board meeting dates for the 26-27 school year: July 15th, August 19th, September 9th, September 30th, October 21st, November 18th, December 16th, January 2027, February 10th, March 10th, March 31st, April 28th, May 19th, June 10, and June 30th. It is recommended that the board approve the proposed 2026-27 regular board meeting dates.
Any questions regarding the calendar? All right, do I have an approval or a motion? Second. Right. Um.
Resolution. So each year, the board determines its committee liaisons and trustee representation. During the meeting, we will discuss to determine the representations for various committees using the attached 2026 draft board member assignments, which is list the committees and the current trustee assignments. It is recommended the board adopt and discuss these selected committee assignments for the 2026 school year. And to assist with the selection, you do have a paper in front of you, and it will tell you who is currently serving on that committee for the 2025. So our first committee is Strategic Plan Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP. Currently, it was Linda and Bridget who were serving on that for the 2025. And so for 2026, we'll need new members. What do we-
I have a question.
So-
I thought we had done it before for the school year, which would be until June. And then usually we redo the committees in August when school starts. So we had already committed to these for the school year, for the 2025-26 school year, not the calendar year.
So can they continue since it hasn't been the full, we should be able to continue because it hasn't been the
Yeah,
full
'cause-
year when Bridget was appointed?
Yeah,
So
We did it, yeah.
Bridget had been appointed.
but usually we keep the same assignments for the school year.
So keep
That-
the,
well, we can do
the,
that. I
would
the same
suggest-
assignments for
Yeah.
the 26th, sure?
I have a question though, about that first one on there, the the LCAT meetings. How are we supposed to know that these meetings are happening?
Well, there's a LCAP calendar, then it's also sent out in our newsletters on our website and in our Parent Square
So if
messages.
we're signed up to do this, we need to track those meetings down to attend, right?
Right, and all the meetings are listed here on the
Okay.
committee form. And the LCAP calendar was just published, I believe, last week.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
There's a couple other meetings too, like the CPAC. I'm not aware of those meetings, and like, is it up to PEF to tell us, to invite us to the gala, or do we just assume we're invited? I'm trying to understand how the communication is supposed to go, like for the library advisory committee meetings, the city reaches out and sends us those agendas. But for the other ones, I just don't fully understand like how the communication goes.
Sure. So with the local accountability plan, or the LCAP, or strategic plan, we do meet with our DLAC partners and our CPAC partners, but that's planned within the organization for our committee to work with that group. And so that meeting would be established as part of the LCAP calendar.
Okay.
Going down to look at the special education or CPAC meeting, it is a bi-monthly virtual meeting from 4 to 5:30. And that would be announced by the president or co-presidents
CPAC?
of CPAC.
Great, thanks.
And then the same for Pacifica Education Foundation. Any events or spring gala, that would all be published through PEF, or the Pacifica Education Foundation.
I think being part of that committee also involves going to their monthly meetings, so you'd be aware of the fundraising. event.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you.
So if everyone's in agreement, we'll continue with the committees as stated at the beginning of the year.
Maybe we should go ahead and make a motion to continue with the committees as we have assigned.
I'll make a motion to continue the committees as assigned through this school year
Okay.
and revisit reassigning in August for the next school year.
Second.
All
Okay.
in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
Right. The consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board or the superintendent or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions?
I was gonna ask if we could move 9F, the bids for the new marquee at Sunset Ridge Ocean Shore Schools, for discussion.
9F?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Anything else? All right, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with removal of 9F?
Motion?
Okay.
Second. All in favor, please raise your hands. Elizabeth, all in favor, please raise your hands.
Sorry, I can't hear you down here.
Passes- Oh, sorry, 4-0.
All right, so 9F. So this is the contract for an Ocean Shore Sunset Ridge signage. Stacy, you maybe has some information. Okay.
So in the memo, you can see we had 6 proposals. CC Ming, our bond manager, reached out to different companies that do sign marquee projects. She brought those forth. The bids ran anywhere from $44,933.85 all the way up to $145,042.99. So there was quite a big range in the dollars. And so the lowest bid we got 6 bids. The lowest bid being from Signs Plus for $44,933.85. The sign would be both for a marquee as well as a sign that goes above the marquee for a fixed sign as well. And so it would be a dual purpose. So not only would it be the marquee, but the standing sign that would be for both Sunset Ridge Ocean Shore. And so it would be a new signage displaying the pride of both schools.
And the reason I wanted to bring this up, first of all, was just to confirm that it was bond associated with the bond. And the second is I'm just like wondering, I'm not sure that like having 2 schools on the same campus is a permanent solution, and how much should really go into displaying permanent signage if there's going to be changes in the next couple of years. And I know
It was made as part of the committees that we formed last year as part of the relocation. It is formed. through
I
the
see,
bond
okay.
funds, But it was part of the visionary team that we agreed to have the signs.
to
for-
represent
for
both.
both
Oh,
school
cool.
site
Okay.
locations.
Okay, cool. All right. I love it. Thanks. Thank you.
I just have one question. Where is the sign gonna go?
So it would go in the front of the school on the
Where the
driveway.
one is right now?
Is it gonna replace the marquee that's there on the hill in front of
I
on the corner of
believe-
Hickey and?
I believe that's where it was.
It
done.
update the,
Yeah.
the top of it, and then where the front of the school where the concrete
Oh, it's both?
sign is, there's overlay for that one as well.
Ah, I thought it was just the marquee. Thank you.
There's 2.
Okay.
being,
Yeah, no, there's
proposed.
the marquee and then it has the
Sign above
standing
it.
sign of sign. Yeah. So it's both.
So will it replace the concrete one?
There's like an overlay.
An
for it.
overlay, okay.
So that way we're not, I mean, why pay for concrete that
Yeah.
already exists? We're trying to
Because-
cut.
because some of
it.
the-
Oh, I see.
Some of the schools, when they had the concrete signs for it, it was in between changing it from Laguna Salada School District to Pacifica School District. So they're kind of half and half. So I just want to make sure. that
They're
they're
very,
checking on the
the
cement
concrete
one.
ones are very expensive. to
Yes.
Change or add to.
Mhm.
Yeah, so one of the things that we look at when we look at bids is how to incorporate fixtures that are already standing there
Mhm.
and repurpose them and use
Yes.
what's already there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, I'd like to propose we make a motion on consent agenda item 9F.
I'll make a motion to.
Okay.
A second. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
Right. Right. Right, communications. Whoa. Okay. First is LSCA. Okay. First is CSCA.
You. Good evening, everyone. As the calendar year draws to a close, I find myself reflecting on the past year. 1 year ago, I could not have imagined how much turmoil the months ahead would bring. Our district has undergone significant change, some unexpected, some expected, others deeply challenging. By nature, I am an optimist, and even in the midst of these difficult times, I remain hopeful. The future will continue to bring challenges, and it is my hope that we will work together in good faith to address them and to ensure that our CSCA and LSCA members feel valued, supported, and heard. I am committed to continuing the work necessary to move us forward with transparency, collaboration, and care at the center of our efforts. I hope each of you will join me in the commitment so that together we can turn challenge into progress and uncertainty into opportunity. This month, we would like to recognize our district school assistants as our above and beyond winners. Schools do not function without school assistants. They are the eyes and ears on the yard. They help the front office do all of the many things that front offices do. They put on the bandages, call the parents, help the staff when and where as needed. There is no task too small or too challenging for our district school assistants. All of these reasons and more are why we are honoring our classified school assistants this month. Thank you to all. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Thank you. All right, people wishing to address the board. I think I saw Tara. Tara Knotts. Yep. Well,
Because a little history never hurts. In 1971, the Laguna Salada School District asked a local parent to investigate the feasibility of an alternative learning environment. In 1972, with the school board approval, the alternative class began its trial year. The concept was an indoor-outdoor classroom, as well as borrowing some ideas from the co-op. It grew rapidly to a K-8 and was moved later to Cabrillo site and then later the Sharp Park site, otherwise known as IBL. In 1998, the Laguna Salada School District was undergoing reorganization, and they offered for the alternative school to have its own site finally. They recognized the importance of those K-8 magnet schools to our district. This site grew to, the site needed to grow to 350 kids. It was renovated a little bit later with the alternative school programs specifically in mind. The breakout rooms down the hallways were designed for the Laguna Salada Alternative School. And it was important to that hands-on learning, cross-grade learning, experiential learning. The parents actually contributed money to those classrooms. This library and the area out there hold good examples of that alternative school programming. The ability awareness was right here. Janelle Chase, an amazing OT and PTO member, taught little kids how to use adaptability equipment. The whalebone out there was about 30 years of alternative experiential learning. The kids helped bury the bone down the road, exhume it, bring it up here. I think it lived in a teacher's backyard. We had our 50th here with people that were OGs that originally were the creators of the alternative school. Patty's plaque was right there. And so many field trips started and ended right there where our parents could connect with each other and love each other's children. The PTOs along the way have always supported the teachers' experiential lesson plans and connected them with the parents that they needed to help do those lesson plans and the money to do those lesson plans. It always took a lot of people working together, and there's nothing magic about field trips and such except for the sheer will of all these people working together to make this happen. It does seem to be hard. It has to have a group of people committed to really wanting that, and without that, it's hard to sustain. Thank you.
thank you. All right, our next speaker, Norma Waxman.
Hi, actually, my name's Norma Jo Waxman, Dr. Waxman, Norma Jo
Okay.
Waxman, but
Sorry.
it's okay. You can call me Norma Jo. I am a parent of a 23 and 25-year-old. I have a home in San Francisco. When my oldest was 1, our family chose to move to Pacifica in good part because one of her best friends was her daughter. In good part because of this really visionary school district. And I wanted my kids to go to public school. As I'm sure you're aware, because you must have investigated this before the decisions that were made last year, a K-12 education, there's tons of data, published data that says the advantages. And obviously some children want and need to go to a middle school, but that was just incredible that there was 2 of them here. So we moved here. My kids went to co-op. They went to school here. I went on field trips weekly and monthly. My children, as a physician, I was in teaching and traveling. That was, a good way that I could put in the hours here that was needed to have a very special and really unique education, experiential learning that was very, very special. They thrived as most children do here. We had all kinds of pull-out things. There's a pull-out art class that was run by artists. We had an organic garden because of the children with disabilities was integrated into our school. There was a program where they got to go, help kids. And the cross-grade experiential learning was incredibly salient for development. And that's part of the data that shows that children who do a junior high K-12, there's much less of that, middle adolescent bullying that goes on. Oceans Week, I know all the benefits of it. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go over over my 3 minutes if that's permissible, because I just haven't been here before and haven't been able to speak to this. And I'm just really sad. I know that financially the challenges, I can't imagine what you guys had, the decisions you had to make and how you looked at them and came to your decision. And I am really curious how it came about, because from what I see and from what I hear, my kids have now graduated from college, and again, in part because of this amazing grounding education that they got. But I see what I see and know is that instead of the outcome of us being able to maintain and retain students, that again, because the community, especially since COVID, has changed, the SES here has changed dramatically. And there's a lot more families of means that now have decided, because of the chaos in the last year, are fleeing and sending their kids to private schools. So I'm a little alarmed about that. I'm seeing my time. That my understanding is that you want school boards and then PTO. Is it okay if I take another? I won't, shut up.
No, that's our time.
I guess just lastly, I didn't understand, since I know PTAs and school boards by law in California and elsewhere are very separated. And there is sort of like a separation of church and state. So when I understood at this meeting that the PTOs are to report their financing and stuff, I just was curious about the legality of that.
Oh, sure. All right, thank you for your comments. Next we have Catherine Washler. I probably butchered that one also. I apologize.
Hi there, good evening. Yes, my name is Catherine Wackler.
Thank you.
Good evening to the board members and staff. Thank you all for being here and thank you for listening. I'm a long time, my husband and I moved to Pacifica in 1997. So we're longtime members of the community, and we are both public school educators ourselves and very interested in public education and have been supporting it really our entire lives and careers. We have 2 daughters who did attend Ocean Shore School. We commuted from the south end of town every day for 14 years to bring our students to Ocean Shore School. I'm mostly addressing the board because I'm still really saddened at the process by which the district chose to make changes last January. I am a public high school teacher in the Sequoia Union High School District, and this fall, our district is considering closing one of our school campuses. They have had numerous meetings with staff, with the community, to discuss this closure. And the closure would be similar to the changes that happened here is for financial reasons. We don't think we can keep the school open any longer because of financial reasons. And I was impressed immediately that the superintendent reached out to all of the staff in the community to let them know, here's what happened at the last school board meeting. We're beginning to talk about this. We're thinking about it. We've planned, these are the meetings we've planned with the staff at the schools. At our most recent board meeting last week, they basically said, we are not sure what to do and we are open to options. What ideas do you as a community have for keeping this school open or dealing with our financial crisis? And I think about that and how like transparent and honest that is. We're all people and we make mistakes and we don't necessarily have all the information that we need at our fingertips to make the best decisions. So reaching out to your community to me it shows strength and not weakness. And I just really wish this board had done that with our community prior to last January, given people the time to share their ideas and their potential solutions that would not have been as disruptive as the ones that were made. And I don't think it's too late. Bridget made a reference earlier tonight that maybe things could still change. And so I just like each of you to think about that and what can we do going forward together as a community and not as individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to board and superintendent correspondence and communications.
Okay, I'll go first. Since the last meeting, I attended weekly meetings on workforce housing and the upcoming demolition and beginning the construction. Also attended the Ortega World Celebration the other night, where they had all the different booths. The different families, countries were represented with costume and food and dolls and material and all that. It was just really wonderful, and the kids got to taste everything. They had a little passport. They could go around and get a sticker flag on their passport of each one that they tried. And also went to the CSBA annual conference in Sacramento, and there were quite a few conferences there on everything that has to do with school boards in the state of California. And they also had a panel of potential governors. So
I too was in Sacramento for the CSBA conference. There were so many things to learn. It was really great to hear from all of the people running for governor to listen to their priorities and where education is in their priorities. I also attended a legislative action committee meeting with San Mateo County School Board Association, which is a group of school board members and trustees from San Mateo County Office of Ed. And last month we created a survey that went out to educational leaders to determine where we will put our focus as we take action on upcoming assembly bills and laws moving through the legislative process. I also went to the superintendent focus group that was open to all community members to listen to what folks hope to see in a superintendent for our district. There were 3 people at the meeting, and I left early so they could talk openly without a trustee in the room, but it was good to hear from the community what they are hoping to see for our district. That's it.
I had my regular one-to-one meetings with Dr. Bowman. I attended the December 2nd San Mateo County Board of Education meeting via Zoom. Prior to that, I had been working on an 8-page opposition letter to the charter school and cited all my work with board documents. I also attended the Global Village. Some of the places that I visited were Peru, Norway, Italy. I had matzo ball soup, which was delicious. That is one of my favorite community events because it involves everybody. So you have the parents and grandparents And some of them are dressed in their traditional clothing. And they share part of their culture with their food. I think there might have there were some of the kids even made like the trifold displays on their culture. And so that's really I think that should be a district thing. Then let's see, what else did I do? I've been researching some of our programs to see how many programs we're actually doing with hands-on learning, and we actually have quite a few. And that's it.
All right, thank you. I also attended one-on-ones with Carissa, attended a meeting about the the needs of the superintendent. Also attended virtually the San Mateo County Office of Education meeting. And that's about it.
So I was also able to meet with the Board of Trustees for the one-on-ones and also the other cabinet members. So one-on-ones with cabinet members and also the Board of Trustees. I was able to go to Cabrillo Middle School Band Concert in IBL and congratulate all of them for such a wonderful evening and the parents being able to support them. Also met with CSEA and LSEA leadership. And and a concert I went to Ortega TK to second grade. There's during the day, which also you have a fabulous day when you start off with little TKers running out with little red noses and handling little fake candles. So it was great. And then also the workforce housing. And I've gone to the CSBA in Sacramento as well, participated in workshops and spoke to vendors.
All right, moving on to information items. We are going to move. Well, wait, no, that's an action item. So, first, parent-teacher organization guidelines for supporting Pacifica School District. Stacy Stoffer. Stacy, can you tell me how to pronounce your name, last name?
You did it right.
Okay, thank you.
Stoffer. Yeah,
Stoffer, thank
that's
you.
right. Think like Stouffer, like the lasagna, but like aw. And do you have the PowerPoint?
Put it up, there's a clicker.
There we go. So the purpose of our presentation is just to get everybody on the same page and have transparency and a good working relationship with all of our PTOs. And this is there we go. First of all, we want to have a recognition of all of our partners. We have amazing PTOs in our district. They help fill the gaps that we know that we have. We have a lot of strong parents and we hear them speak every week. We see them when we go out to our schools. We hear the great work that they're doing. So we want to recognize that. We have a shared vision because we're all here to support our kids. And so in doing so, we want to be here to support that partnership and make sure that it's clear in what our responsibilities are, what their responsibilities are, and bridge those gaps in communication. So this is kind of that step forward in how do we do that together and forming good partnerships. So in case anybody was unclear in how to even start a parent organization, because although this is formatted in this is how to do a PTO, there might be another parent organization. So I'm just starting from like the very basics of, hey, if you want to start a parent organization, how do you do that? So I put that very basic process in here because I believe in starting as if you know nothing, because maybe there's a parent out there that doesn't even know how to start this. So the official authorization process, you submit a formal request. That is step one. And if anyone is wondering, this is all based on board policy and regulations that already pre-exist. So this is policy 1230 and administrative regulation 1230. So these are already voted in and exist in board policy already. So you submit a formal request to have an organization. So all the PTOs that exist have already gone through this process through the governing board and are existing organizations. If any new organization wishes to exist, a parent organization, then they would have to go through this process. And they say they want to be a parent-backed organization that operates in a school or within the school district. And then the board would have to approve that. So that's step one. So they operate, though, once the board grants that authorization, they operate separately with some overlap in very specific ways, and I'm going to get to that. So the Pacifica School District is a public entity governed by the board. So the board gets to look into everything we do, right? You have to authorize every single transaction, everything we do, look into our finances, et cetera. We operate under public education codes and policies. That's a very important distinction because this is operation of public funds. Parent-teacher organizations is a school-connected organization. So it's operating separately from the school district, but there are some reporting requirements still, and I'm going to get into that in a moment. So how PTOs are governed. Now, there are governance requirements, and that's under Administration Regulation 1230. That can be found on our board policy. They have to have their own bylaws. There's a list of actually 10 requirements, and the laws, there's like 5 laws to be followed, like tax exempt status, ID number, all of those things that need to be followed. But they need to have their own bylaws, operational procedures, state, national organizations, et cetera. So they operate as their own separate entity. District policies, we have to operate by our own board policies, et cetera. So the district school relationship. So we establish the rules and relationship between school organizations, and that we're guiding them for like any organization that wants to reimburse us, because if they have somebody they want to organize, the funding still has to be routed through our business office. And so that's where it gets kind of tricky. So say they want to have this great speaker come in and do an assembly. They would still have to run the 1099s and all of that through the business office. We have to make sure that person has insurance and all of that. And then the PTO can reimburse us. So all of that kind of runs through the business office. And that's where we have
We can, excuse me, I apologize. We'll answer any of the questions or any of the comments we can address immediately after this. And we'd be happy to give you a copy of the board policy or any other paperwork that you may need.
We have a copy of this board.
Excellent. So we'll answer questions right after that.
So the idea is to make sure that when vendors or when anybody comes on, that we're doing those checks that we're responsible for as a school district, and the PTOs or other parent-teacher organizations or what other organizations can still get the programming that they desire. Fundraising guidelines. So whenever, and this comes with PTOs, or even if there's like a student fundraiser, band fundraiser, any type of fundraiser, any school-connected organization has to get pre-approval from the superintendent to do fundraisers. And that is so that we make sure, because any school funds, any funds that go to kids, we need to make sure that they're routed appropriately. And this comes directly from Education Code 49011. Any participation in fundraising activities by students and their parents, guardians, and any donation of funds or property shall be voluntary. We want to make sure that everybody knows it's voluntary, that there's no requirements. And that's just the core principle we have. Our next steps, we want to make sure everybody knows that this is a partnership. There's no gotchas, anything like that. organizations are authorized by the board. Like I said, the PTOs we have already been authorized. We want to make sure that it's transparent, which is why I started from the beginning, so people know the whole process. Organizations are separate legal entities, but there are requirements. Those 10 requirements are here, and one of them, like number 6, is an agreement to grant the district the right to audit the group's financial records. That's one of the things we're doing now, is just checking in. And that's in Regulation 1230. Get approval before soliciting funds. So making sure, because we don't want families to feel burdened if they can't give. So just being responsible about that. And all student and parent participation is voluntary because everybody has different means. So making sure that we're being responsible about that. We have set up as next steps meeting in January for all PTO presidents and one alternate to come so that we can have a discussion. So that way we can have a good forum open to discuss any questions or in the spirit of collaboration. And so this is just like a beginning of that partnership. Any questions?
Do we have any questions for Stacy?
I have one.
Okay.
Oh, so I just wanted to clarify something for you. The board passed 1230, the policy in
Mhm.
March 2023.
Mhm.
And so this is something that's somewhat new. And so I'm glad that we're taking these steps in this process. The only thing I have a question about is I've been on the PTO
Mhm.
and so I know what happens inside the PTO. I'm curious, and you might have to follow up with this
Mhm.
at a different time, but what happens if there's one person who's doing something that they shouldn't be doing? Can we still be held liable for them if we approve that fundraiser?
Well, that's where we need to have and I might have to get back to you because that's a very vague question. So I would need to know maybe more specifics, but that's where we need to have we need to follow the regulation 1230 because there's very specific things that are listed there that should be publicly accessible. Right. And so one of the things that I want to provide in our January meeting is making sure that all PTOs know, because I always want to err on the side of like, hey, maybe we didn't know, right? Maybe it's just, if we didn't know, we didn't know, right? But everybody knows, hey, did you know that you're supposed to have 1 through 10 publicly accessible? Did you know that you shall be doing 1 through 5? And if
Right.
not, let's start doing that.
Right.
And if not, then yeah, we could get in trouble for not, because we're supposed to be overarching and guiding these organizations. So it could come back and bite us because as the board, it's our policy.
And I just, sorry, can I just clarify? Because they're school-related organizations,
Mhm.
right? Not just any nonprofits, but because they're like in the district, right?
Right. And so, for example, because the funding routes through the business office because the money touches our hands in a way, like reimbursement of expenses touches us. Any money we touch, we're like responsible for. So if the money, we reimburse, then the money touches us and we have to be responsible.
Well, and also those PTOs are using the school names and the school children as part of the fundraising campaigns.
Yeah.
So
So
therefore they were associated with the school districts.
right.
Just
And
by
one of
nature of that.
Correct. And so one of the statements in here is it has to be used for the purpose of the school and the students. And so as long as it's being used for that purpose, that's fine. And then, so like if something came across the business office, like reimburse for, I mean, I don't know, but that's one of the things that like, as we're paying bills, we're like, yep. And so we check that. That's all.
To answer the first question, if there's a contract or ed code or another policy or bylaw that's been violated, even if it's just one, the district is still held liable and can be held accountable for it. And the policies that that Rachel, or sorry, that Stacy is referencing is the 1230, but the school connected organizations about fundraising, that's ed code 51521 for fundraising activities by students and parents and guardian and donation of funds. That's ed code 49011. So none of these are things that have been new or published within the last 2 years. The last time this was reviewed was 3/29/2023.
I just have one more question.
Sure.
I never thought about this so much till it came up.
Sure.
So how do we know, for example, I can see Ortega and Ocean Shore in here. How do we know what their plans for their kids' programming is? And who oversees making sure that's in line with ed code and making sure we're not charging and things like that? Who would be doing that?
So,
Either one.
yeah, so for the organization, like we have to follow the ed code and then anything that has authorization or permission has to be submitted to the superintendent or the superintendent designee. And then ultimately that person would be responsible for the follow-up and the monitoring. One of the reasons why we wanted to do this evening is have everybody on the same page and start that relationship where things weren't unknown or that we weren't dealing with people not understanding or not receiving the training. And all of that goes through what the policy is. The goal of tonight is to give everybody an overview of the policy and to look forward to working together. It's been a year of different turmoil and grief, and we all recognize that. And our kids need us, and we're hoping that we can rise above that and do what our next step is. And so I'm happy to meet with any of the organizations or people who have questions, or they are unclear of what the policy is, or they need specific information. I'm happy to meet with them as well so that we can move forward and do what's best for kids in Pacifica and have that be for all kids. I'm a little disgruntled that we're taking something that is so neutral and written in 2023 and being rude to other people who have worked so hard to try to make sure those things are put into place. So please know that we are here to put what is in place, what's best for all kids. And if there's a problem with that or with the policy, we have a very open to my door. We've already met with PTO presidents, with the after school program. We're meeting with the PTO presidents, and I'll happily give my name and number out. We've met with many organizations at the beginning. And so hopefully this was to be the beginning of hopefully a long relationship where we're working together. Another example is I just met with PEF, where they were spending a certain amount of money on something that the district could cover through grant. And that money allowed them to do something for our elementary school kids that may not have been done previously. Without that open relationship and being able to have a conversation and dialogue with one another, we may not have ever been able to offer such a great program to our elementary kids because we didn't have that conversation. And so it's not about a got you or tracking or looking at the financials. What we want to do is make sure that we work together for a group of people as adults for all of our kids and make sure that there's programming there. So again, I apologize for any interruption. We're just reading the policy. And if anybody has a concern or a question, I'm more than happy to give you time on my personal schedule or outside of my work schedule to meet with anybody.
I just have one more comment. I'm sorry, Carissa. The thing I'm worried about and concerned about, and I guess we'll see it, once it transpires into next year, is equity and making sure that the programming that is after school or during school, that all of our kids have some of the same kind of opportunities so that we're not having one or two schools. And we kind of do have that because we have Sunset Ridge, making sure that there's equitable opportunities for everybody, even through the PTOs. And so that would be my wish.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, I'd like to invite Kendra Vera up from the Ocean Shore PTO.
We just have a group that wanted to read our mission statement and then I'll move along with the presentation.
They wanted to participate. You can put up our slide deck because the mission and vision is the first slide.
So you can scroll
there a
right
clicker?
here. The green.
Hey, check it out. Okay. This is the agenda. Okay, so we're going to begin by reading our mission and vision. I'll go first. I'm Crystal, PTO president. Robin's also here, PTO president. And this is our first slide. We'll do vision, then we'll do mission, and then we'll begin. All right, so the vision of Ocean Shore School is Ocean Shore School students grow to be caring people who embrace diversity and environmentally and socially responsible. Sharon.
They are curious and enthusiastic learners who develop strong academic and life skills.
Ocean Shore students are critical, independent thinkers who are engaged members of society.
And now our mission.
Ocean Shore's collaborative learning community of teachers, parents, and students and staff form a working partnership to enrich the educational experiences for the children.
And because of this partnership, the school is able to provide an experiential learning process that is enhanced by cross-age interactions, field trips, project-based learning, and community involvement.
Each child's individual potential is maximized to foster a positive self-image, lifelong love of learning, and strong critical thinking skills. We as an executive board take this mission and vision very seriously, and all the decisions we make as an executive board are in direct service of this mission and vision. And this mission and vision existed long before any of us were on the board. You'll see former and existing board members right now, and we hope it will continue long after we leave the school. We are deeply proud of the programming the PTO has been able to support over the years, both this year, last year, and in the decades prior. And we are so grateful that our own children, a few of whom are here and back there, have been able to benefit from this unique and wonderful program here in Pacifica School District.
Today, we are excited for Kendra to present for you and share more about how we've managed our funds in service of this mission to support vision-aligned programming at our school. As was the stated purpose of this meeting and your invitation, we look forward to hearing from you about how we could partner more strategically to preserve and extend this wonderful programming for years to come.
All right, so we'll pass it off to Kendra for the nuts and the bolts, but just wanted to frame it all in that really important mission and vision for the kids.
Thanks. Thanks, guys. Okay. So yes, we'll start with a financial statement review of last school year. We have 3 checking accounts at Tri-Counties. We have an anonymous donor who donates to the Oceans 411 program every year, and that has made that program self-sustaining. So we keep those funds in a separate account and adjust the balance as needed to reflect the funds available in the program. Fundraising goals for this year. Since this was our first year of being co-located, it's difficult to know what our fundraising will look like. Prior year actuals are probably not good estimates because we lost our middle school families this year. Now that we're essentially a merged school, some of our fundraisers are separate and others are combined with the Sunset Ridge PTO. As in previous years, we expect our direct family donations to represent the bulk of our fundraising. Similarly, we expect our readathon to be our biggest single fundraiser. The expenditures, investments for the current school year. These expenditures help us meet the OSS PTO vision and mission, providing and protecting project-based learning via field trips and other classroom supports. I'd also like to point out that while the two PTOs at the Inverness campus will have both separate and joint fundraisers, we came together and decided that every dollar spent would be for all students. So for example, the classroom supply budgets on this slide are for all of the classrooms. And let's see, the PTO grant program is a separate fund that teachers can apply to for things that fall beyond their classroom supply budget. In the past, these grants either supplemented traditional classroom learning, such as phonics or social emotional materials, or were requested by a grade level for their lesson plan enhancements. An example was a set of the Martian books for our middle school one year. This, along with everything else our PTO does, is approved by the principal. We don't do anything on campus that our principal isn't aware of. That was true in this building and is also true at Inverness. Okay, let's see. This is more of where we expect to spend our funds this year. So the assemblies are things like Challenge Day, Hip Hop for Change. The Greater Farallones Association came out and did an assembly during Oceans 411. And the Ocean Shore School Emergency Fund has been used to help families and staff members in crisis. All right, here we have a year-over-year comparison, budget, net income, and loss. So in the 2021-22 school year, we'd planned on a loss of $30,000 because our fundraising was still recovering from COVID. We couldn't schedule as many field trips as we'd hoped that year, so we managed to end up in the black. The next school year, the number of field trips taken were similar to pre-COVID, but the field trips themselves were more expensive. And our middle school fundraising continued to struggle a bit post-COVID. And so the PTO stepped in to make up the difference so that every 8th grader who wanted to go to Yosemite could go to Yosemite. In the 2023-24 school year, Ocean Shore celebrated its 50th anniversary with many school-wide events, and we had a record number of family donations that year. And then we get to last school year. We'd budgeted to break even, but of course, that was because we thought it would be a normal school year, but we'll look at those numbers in greater detail in the next slides. Okay, so this is for last school year, comparison to budget for expenses. So the PTO admin category, it's what you'd think it is. It's things like Sign Up Genius, insurance, taxes, Zoom, QuickBooks, all of that. The enrichment programs were field trips. We paid for a PE teacher and then the Yosemite trip. The donations to PEF, Emergency Fund, and others. So this number includes a sizable donation to the Ocean Light Charter School, which was made after an open assembly of our parent body who make up our PTO. Ocean Light founders presented their plan for a school based on OSS experiential learning, culture, and traditions. And in accordance with our bylaws, the PTO voted to make a sizable donation to the charter school from the PTO's reserves. This number also includes a large donation to the family of a beloved member of the Ocean Shore staff who passed away this year. Expenses related to co-location, I'll get into greater detail about that number in an upcoming slide. And then we had our planned capital expenditures. We'd planned to build a new greenhouse and to purchase new AV equipment. When it became clear that our school site was closing, we decided not to make those large purchases. And then we have the income side. So we thought we would be able to fundraise so that we'd break even, and our budget at the time was $160,000. Given the volatility of last year, we didn't raise as much as we thought. But still, we raised $147,000 and change. Okay. So total costs related to co-location. So these would be costs associated with the move itself. Also, we sent our 7th graders to Yosemite in addition to our 8th graders, since that was their only chance to attend Yosemite, and that's something these kids look forward to from kindergarten. And it also includes legal and research fees, which per our bylaws were voted on by the PTO Executive Board. And then a similar number is what we spent on student programming, campus initiatives, and classroom support. Again, this would be things like field trips, the PE teacher, classroom supplies for teachers, staff appreciation, family engagement, all of that. And then looking ahead, we still have our biggest fundraiser of the year coming up in January, our readathon. It's going to be a joint effort this year with Sunset Ridge. We learned so much from their Boo Fest this year, and we're excited to bring that to our Spring Fest to the Inverness campus. And then we have a new one, the Stuffy Sleepover. We've got lots of great ideas for that one, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, then we also have our Winter Bazaar, which is in 2 days, not at all stressful. We also, the Winter Market, which is a new thing for us at Sunset Ridge that my 5th grader in particular is looking forward to. We do have a multicultural night, and this year we'll be doing it in conjunction with Sunset Ridge. The Eat Garden Mulching event. It's been an adventure for the Eat Garden Club at Sunset Ridge, but they've made a lot of progress and things are looking incredible. There's the Patty McNally Team Spirit Day, and of course, Oceans 411, however that looks this year. We're excited about that, and we hope more field trips. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Well, I think I have a couple questions.
Sure.
First, I just want to note when we were talking about bylaws earlier.
Sure.
So the place for everyone to know where to find them, when you go to the meeting, right next to where it says meetings up top, right next to it is policies. And it's full of lots of boring policies. Anyway, so our bylaws, 1230's in there. I'm curious if you guys happen to have your bylaws, because that is something that.
Of course. We've
Okay.
sent them to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just haven't
In
seen that.
April.
Okay.
And then, sorry,
uh-huh.
and then when you had a new CBO come in, I sent them to that person.
Okay.
And then I don't remember who came after Logan. I mean, it was every time I sent it to someone, they left. I don't know if it was because of that, but
Okay.
so I've sent it to many people. I have it in my sent email. Happy to
Right.
forward it again.
I noticed on you do the 990s.
Yep.
So that the number of people on there, it seems like past years maybe you had a smaller board and now it's a larger board. Past years there was fewer signers, it seemed, on there than
I mean,
so-
sorry, I should say I don't personally do it. We have a CPA who
Okay.
does it. Yeah.
yeah, I just think I saw your signature, I thought, on there.
Oh, well, I do, they
Yeah.
send it to me for the signature, but I don't actually compile it.
Okay, so I was just curious if in your bylaws you guys added some members maybe this year or something changed? Or maybe you just doubled up. Sometimes people double up on positions or something.
Well, we do have a few positions, and that's in our bylaws that can be co's. I really think that's mainly just the president and the treasurer. But no, to my knowledge, we don't have more officers now than we've had in the past.
Okay.
I've been on, I think I started in 2021, something
Okay.
like that.
Okay, I was just curious. Anyway, the other question isn't, because you are familiar with the 990.
Yeah.
In part 9.
Okay, sorry, not that familiar, but sure.
Okay, I was just, you mentioned a section that was rather high called teaching support.
Okay.
I was just curious what that was. It was, you had written it in, or maybe the CPA did that. And it just was, that's usually in the section where legal expenses are and other like overhead expenses are. So there was just kind of a line item, and it was just sort of a
Well, that wouldn't have been.
legalese thing. I just didn't recognize it for like
Sure.
tax purposes.
Okay.
What that was. I just was curious if you knew.
Sure. It wouldn't have been any legal fees. That, I think it's probably classroom supply budgets. And then maybe that is where the PE teacher, I mean, the PE that the PTO have supported for the past, I don't know, many years, it has gotten to be close to 30,000. So that's probably part of that number, but I'm sorry, I don't recall off the top of my head.
Okay. And I appreciate you saying that there was votes for these large expenditures, because I was curious, because generally large expenditures aren't made unless there is a vote. So I appreciate that that's a vote taken for those. So that's, I don't think I have any more questions for you.
I'd just like to say, in general, we approve our budget. I have learned that not every PTO does that, but we do we get together in the summer with the teachers and figure out what we think the budget should look like. And then at our general meeting, we vote on it. And then if there's any sort of large expenditure that we weren't expecting, like, last year, we bring it back to the body and talk about it and vote again.
Right,
So.
right. Okay.
And I also would just want to make sure that the board is aware, although I think, Dr. Bowman, you did send out an email, which I appreciate, that we as a PTO are complying with what you've asked, looking at our financials, going back. I don't have a co-treasurer. I do have a full-time job and like most of us, many kids. And so it's taking a little bit of time, but we have complied since the time we received the letter. And I've been sending things to Dusty as I have time to go through them and upload them to a Dropbox. So it seemed like during last year at certain times hearing from Kelly, you maybe weren't aware that we have complied all along. So since I had this opportunity to talk to you face to face, I wanted you to know that we are, and yeah. Okay.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. I don't know if this is an exhaustive list of expenditures, but I noticed that it adds up to around $70,000. Compared to actual expenditures last year, there's a significant decrease. And I'm wondering what's driving the lower projected expenditures this year?
Well, we lost our middle school, so that's a pretty good portion of our population, right? So we are struggling to bring in the family donations that we had in the past. I'm sorry, you're talking about,
that makes sense. Yes.
you're talking about current school year,
Yeah,
right?
current
Yeah,
school year.
it's,
It's based on the income, your projected income? Is that
I mean, yeah,
okay?
yeah, it's a whole new world for us. And it's a very, we lost so many Ocean Shore families that it's a bit of a struggle now. So we're just sort of estimating, we can't deficit spend, right?
Right.
So
That makes sense.
yeah, and we hope to, while we dip into our reserves when we have to, we, hope that we'll continue to operate. And also with the, no parent drivers and field trips, that has a huge impact on us. And there wasn't much time to sort of figure out how much these buses cost. Janine is amazing, as you know, and is super helpful in helping us figure that all out. And then it's also we are essentially a merged school in that nothing would happen on the Inverness campus that doesn't happen for all the kids. But that has also presented its own challenges to figure out which PTO is going to cover which thing and what's the equitable way to share things. And all of that communication didn't start until the school year started. And so that is, a challenge.
Yeah, I want to just say I appreciate the PTOs working together. I think it's really great.
Yeah.
Thanks for the flexibility.
Well, we've been lucky. They're a good partner.
I have one more
Sure.
comment, and it's just to the general Ocean Shore. Ballimore was actually invited first last week, but they for some reason didn't quite make it here. So I know the date changed, but so I know it seems like we brought Ocean Shore here first to pick on everybody, but that is not the case. We're inviting all PTOs here. So I just wanted to put that out in the world. So
Appreciate that. Okay. Thank you.
all right. We're going on to first reading of 00s and 1000s CBSBA updates for June through November. Carissa or Dr. Bowman, sir, excuse me.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to update some policies on things that are new with the laws and then also with things that needed updated. And some of this has taken place because we did have the opportunity to go to CBSA last week. And so I'm proposing to update Board Policy AR 420.4, Charter School Authorization. Board Policy Exhibit 420.41, Charter School Oversight. Board Policy Administrative Regulation and Exhibit 113, Schools Websites. And Board Policy Administrative Regulation for 1114 for district-sponsored social media. The first set regarding the charter school authorization, it also looks at the oversight, and that is a new law as of June 2025, based from CSBA, and so that we are now adopting that. Previously, we did not have a charter school program for board policy or administrative regulation, and so that is now aligned to the new current law as of June. And then we're super happy to announce that earlier this year, you also heard about our new website and social media and our also IA efforts and for increasing our community outreach and transparencies with our families. And so you'll see an update for the district school website and the district sponsored school media. And so you have a copy. I won't read all 20 some pages of the policy, but I am happy to answer any questions. And then we will have the opportunity to do the second read at the next meeting.
I just, there was one thing that I wanted to point out. There's one line on page 2 of the first reading that says, that it won't be updated, that the exhibit won't be updated after June 2025. And I worry that that makes it sound like an exhaustive list. So before the second reading, I just wonder if it might be helpful to clarify what that means.
And I'm sorry, could you please refer to what section?
It's on page 2 of the first reading, and it doesn't need to be addressed right now. I just wanted to point it out for the second reading next time.
Is there a wrong date on there?
It says that it won't be updated after June 2025. And I just worry that that language makes it sound like it's it's not a flexible document, but it has to be a flexible document because laws are constantly changing, right? Unless I'm understanding it wrong.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. So it's based on the charter school authorization and the materials for that. This administrative regulation won't be updated because there'll be a new one based on the new laws that we just had in June of 2025.
Okay, it might be helpful to clarify that in the second reading, but
Sure, I can definitely do that.
Okay, thanks.
So I think you just clarified it now because the second read just goes on consent. So if there are changes made, we need any.
Do the changes need to happen right now?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay. I mean, I don't know, maybe should we look at it right now? I'm not sure.
With the exhibit, so the exhibit's not going to be updated after June 1st of 2025 because the new law, AB 3216, requires the governing board of the charter school to adopt policies for that prohibit student use. But that's a new law, and we haven't gotten guidance on the administrative regulation at this point. If you'd like to do a second or third reading on the charter school oversight, we could bring it back to discussion with any further comments during the second reading, then just put it on for the third reading for consent. But the reasoning behind it is because it's a new law, AB 3216, which doesn't go into effect until July of 2026.
Okay, that makes sense. That's fine. That's fine.
It is noted on the red line and in the policy. Later on in the same policy, it talks about governing board and the services as of January 1st of 2025. And it also gives another exception based on for January 1st of 2026 because of new law SB 153. So there'll be administrative regulations. They'll just be based on the new law of 25 and 26.
Okay, thanks. That makes sense.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great. So we're moving on to next first read of the instructional board policies and administrative regulations update. Dr. Carla Chavez Torres.
Good evening, President Bracchini, members of the Board of Trustees, Interim Superintendent Dr. Bowman, and members of the public. I'm here to present item L11D, the first read of instructional board policies and administrative regulations. This is an informational item for your review and discussion. The California School Boards Association provides districts and quarterly updates to sample bylaws, board policy, and administrative regulations to ensure alignment in current state and federal law, new court decisions, and updated guidance from the California Department of Education. Each update reflects the major revisions, new statutory requirements, and technical modifications. Pacifica School District reviews these updates and incorporates changes as appropriate to maintain compliance, support coherent instructional practices across all TK-8 school sites. The policies presented tonight reflect the most recent legislative actions and new requirements. The following updates are the most relevant and significant for our TK-8 instructional program. Concepts and roles, BP 6000, updated to incorporate concepts of equity and inclusion and reflect new guidance from the CDE on the importance of coordination, collaboration, and alignment between the school, parents, guardians, and the community. Summer learning programs, BP 6177, updated to incorporate concepts related to learning recovery, providing supplemental instruction, and support in a tiered framework. It also reflects new law requiring priority access for our intercession programs to foster youth and our students experiencing homelessness. Mathematics instruction, BP 6142.92 and BP 6152.1. Policies align with the 2023 mathematics framework for California public schools, focusing on removing barriers and ensuring access and opportunity for all students. Reading language arts instruction, BP 6142.91. A significant new section requires the board adoption of screening instruments and the annual assessment of each student in grades kindergarten through second grade for the risk of reading difficulties. Transitional kindergarten, BP 6170.1, updated to reflect new law that exempts TK students from the requirement to be assessed in English listening and speaking for initial English learner identification. Independent study, BP AR 6158, updates clarify that a written agreement is required for independent study of any length of duration. The regulation also ensures independent study students who are scheduled for 2 or more hours of educational activities at a school site are made available a nutritionally adequate breakfast or lunch at no cost. Parents' involvement, BP 6020, policy updated to include new material related to the establishment and convening of a parent advisory committee. Courses of study, AR 6143 for grades 1 through 8. The administrative regulation for elementary and middle school grades now includes instruction in cursive and joint italics for grades 1 through 6, Spanish colonization of California and the Gold Rush era, including the treatment and perspectives of Native Americans, the cause and effects of climate change, personal financial literacy relevant for our middle school students, religious beliefs and opt-outs, BPAR 6141.2. Multiple policies have been updated based on Mahmood versus Taylor court decision. This ruling requires a district to provide notice and the ability to opt students out of instruction that substantially interfere with the religious development of their children. The recommendation before you is that the Board of Trustees review and discuss the proposed updates to the board policies and administrative regulations as part of this first reading. If no substantial revisions are requested by the board during this first reading, the full set of updated policies and regulations will be placed on the consent calendar for adoption at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. I am now open for any questions or discussion the board may have regarding these proposed updates.
All right, are there any questions? All right, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is CSBA Delegate Assembly nominations. Dr. Bowman.
Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. In Region 5B, San Mateo, 3 CSBA delegate terms end in 2026. Nominations to the CSBA Delegate Assembly are due by January 7th of 2026. And the instruction for the nomination process are included in these nomination packets. At this time, Are there any individuals that would like to do a nomination for CSBA Delegate Assembly? Not recognizing any delegates being nominated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to action items. So we are going to move up item E, which is the Ortega Elementary School Principal, with Speaker Rachel Romo.
Good evening, President Brocchini and trustees. Thank you for moving this item up. Ortega Elementary School Principal. We are pleased to announce that Jason Konigsberg has been selected as the new Ortega Elementary School Principal. Mr. Konigsberg has been in education since 2008. He brings his educational career, he began his educational career in New Jersey, where he served as a social studies teacher at Old Bridge High School and as the director of special education at Benjamin Banneker Charter School. In his role, he oversaw special education teachers, service providers, and guidance counselors to ensure compliance and high quality support for students. He mentored novice teachers, supporting professional growth and instructional practices, classroom management, and compliance with individualized education plans. In 2024, he received his California Administrative Services credential, and he's been the vice principal at Roy Cloud School in Redwood City, California. Mr. Konigsberg brings a wealth of experience and dedication to his new role at Ortega Elementary School. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approves the hiring of Jason Konigsberg as principal of Ortega Elementary School.
All right, are there any questions? All right, well, with that, do we have a motion to approve the hiring of Jason Konigsberg?
All in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes 4-0.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you. Jason's.
Please.
Good evening. President Brocchini, trustees, Dr. Bowman, Ms. Romo. Thank you, everyone who's here, and thank you, everyone who was on the interview committee, for entrusting me as the new principal of Ortega School. I am truly honored and grateful for this opportunity. I look forward to dedicating my role as principal to the community I also call home. I'm excited to partner with our students, families, staff, and the board to continue to support a strong, inclusive, and thriving school community. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, thank you. Okay. All right, so we're next on to Stacy Stoffer, certification of first interim report of 2025-26. Just a moment, please. Do we have?
Oh, I was just looking, yeah. Cora already spoke earlier, didn't you? Did you give a second? I put 2 on that part. Oh, I just saw non-agenda item. Good call. Sorry.
Yep. All right.
Thank you. As you know, I'm always interested in budgets. The PowerPoint that's being presented, I think, was only posted on the website yesterday, less than 72 hours in advance. I noticed your reserve is just barely enough. You kind of around 3%. Your projected multi-year projections tick up a little. I think you've been saved by a predicted COLA that's over 3%. We'll see if that remains true. When I look at the items where the projected is significantly greater than the budgeted, it seems to be mostly like salary benefits and then some sub agreements, which I assume are special ed. It's a little confusing to me when you look at, you worked hard to cut a bunch of teachers out during the budget reorganization. And and you have less kids, why your predicted spend is less than the budgeted. You should have, I mean, it would have been obvious that you would lose some kids to reorganization, even in the best of times. What I'm wondering is, this kind of happened the year before in 2024. There was you made some cuts in early 2024. You had a pretty decent reserve predicted, I think upwards of 9%. And by this time last year, it kind of tanked, and thus began all of this chaos. So I'm wondering what we can do better to predict better. I'm also wondering, the budget collaboratives that we had, while it seemed, I understand districts can have budget collaboratives, superintendent budget collaboratives, without the intention to close a school or any big change. I am wondering if the school district wouldn't consider having an ongoing, constant budget collaborative meeting, not just with PTOs, because PTOs hardly represent the mass of parents, but lots of different people in the community, maybe even just not people who are actually at the school, but having ongoing meetings, maybe quarterly, to just talk about what's going on with your school budgets. It might actually help you get people more motivated to, I don't know, donate to schools across the community. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Stacy, the certification of the first interim report.
All right. And Dusty is also on Zoom, so just to let you know.
Want me to elevate her so she can speak?
Hmm?
Do you want me to elevate her to speak?
Yeah. Yeah. So first interim. So the contents that will be presented tonight, this is just our table of contents. We are going to go over what our goals are, state budget cycle, so you can see where we are, our objective, and what the certification options are, the general fund revenue and expenditures for this year, the adopted budget that we have now compared to first interim, so where we adopted versus where we are now. Our 25-26 compared to 27-28 multi-year projections. And then what has impacted these projections, and the 25-26 summary from all funds combined, and our 25-26 first interim certification recommendation. And then we will look forward to our next steps in our budget process. So first of all, our Pacifica School District has overarching goals of attendance, academics, community engagement, and embracing inclusivity and diversity. So these are the overarching goals that we look at when we do anything, including budget dynamics. In the budget cycle, we adopt the budget in June, we enact the state budget in July, we have the revision, unaudited actuals. Right now, we are at the first interim. And that's what's being presented tonight. So what affects our budget right now? One of the first things I wanted to present is enrollment and student attendance, ADA. So we did have an effect of our ADA. You can see it did drop more than expected. TK3 had a slight drop. We expected a little bit, but this was a more significant. We are now at what we expected to hit in a couple of years, and it's happening now. And so by the time we get to 27, 28, it's going to be much more significant across the board in all grade levels. I usually give pause for numbers because I like people to take them in. So TK3, we have, last year we had 1193 in TK3. This year we're at 1140. By next year, we're going to be at 1103. And then 2728, we're going to be at 1088. And that's our new incoming babies. And if we look at how those roll up, 4-6, last year we're at 882. This year, 843. Next year, 819. 2728, 757. 78, and these are exiting kids, 577, 549, 580, 572. And that goes directly into what we get in revenue. Our state COLA with our adopted budget, we adopted the budget at 2.3. The first interim, we did an estimate at 3.02. 2728, there's going to be an estimate at 3.42. However, there are discussions at the COLA dropping. And so that is something we do need to be aware of when we're doing our multi-year, is that this is a generous estimate. And there is a discussion that it could drop. So we need to be aware and kind of think about that when we're looking forward to our budget report in January. So how are budgets put together? State funding, we have our LCFF based on student attendance. So when we talked about the ADA, that goes into our LCFF. So we get our average daily attendance by grade level. So we get the different funding based on the groups. Additional funds for class size and students who are English learner, socioeconomically disadvantaged, homeless, or foster youth. Those go into supplemental funds. Then we have community funding. District receives more property tax than LCFF funding. So then we have those community funds. And then we continue to be a student community that is LCFF fund. We are not community funded. So I know that there's a lot of times discussion as to how we are funded. We are a state funded district. So now we get to the color slides, which are sometimes more fun. There's so little joy in numbers. Okay. So this is why I do budget for the pie charts. So the local revenue, LCFF sources, as I said, this is why we're LCFF funded. You can see the big chunk of our budget is LCFF sources. Okay, and we're gonna do a cost breakdown at the next slide. And our local revenue, actually, I need to get my computer. So our local revenue is 9.8%. I know the numbers are small. Our state revenue is 10.3. And then our federal revenue is 2.0. And so this is just our general fund. So with these, we have the LCFF in this slide. So we have it up an additional 1.1%. So in this LCFF, the big chunk, we have an additional, so the 1.1, the 77.9%, that's for a total of 32.2 million. Federal is actually the federal revenue, that's the 2%. That's actually down 1.5% for a total of 813,000. State is up 19.7% from student support block grant. And so that's where that increase came from. That's up 704,000 for a total of 4.2 million. And then our local funds, there's an increase of 2.2%. And that's because we are collecting Boys and Girls Club rental income. Okay, so that's for a total of 4.0 million. And so our general fund total is 41.3 million. Our expenditures, so our first interim expenditures, the majority of what we spend money on are our people. We value our people. So our biggest expenditures are salary and benefits. And it's 29.7 million, 70.91%. It looks a little lower than our 80%. And the reason is because we have positions that were hard to fill in special education. So when we had those positions that were hard to fill, they had to go over to contracted services. So we still spend that money on people. It just doesn't all go in those same wedges. So our certificated salaries are 13.5 million, classified salaries 4.6 million, employee benefits are 7.8 million, books and supplies 378,000, services and other operational costs are 3.5 million. Total expenditures 25.4 million. And again, I'm really proud of the fact that as a district, we spend more on our people than anything else, because that's what touches our kids' lives. So our revenue comparison, when we look at our adopted budget versus our first interim, and we're looking at our comparison, we see the updated rate. So we adopted for 31.9, and our first interim, we have 32.25 million income because, or revenue because of the TK ADA. Federal revenue, 826,000 was at adopted, 813.5. There was a reduction in 25-26 in federal grant funding. So everybody feels a little bit of that federal hit. Other state revenue, 3.57 million to 4.28 million. We did get new one-time student support grant in the amount of 778,063. And then other local revenue, we have 3.96 million increased to 4.046 million. And that again was increased in rents and lease revenue. And so that is another income stream we're interested in continuing to look. So total revenue went from 40.27 million to 41.39 million. So a slight increase. Expenditure comparison, certificated salaries went from 14.0 mil to 13.58. Vacant position savings, funds moved to contracted services. So we are still spending money on people, but like I stated earlier, we had to put that to contracted. Classified salaries, 4.62 million to 4.67 million. So we have new school assistant positions. And that was that increase there. Employee benefits, 11.7, decreased to 11.48. And that's our health and welfare. Books and supplies, 1.38 to 1.17 million. Realignment of budget resources. So we're trying to look strategically at how we're using our money on books, supplies, services and other operating. So that's projected increase. You can see that increase there, 9.63 to 10.89. We have had an increase in legal costs and special education contracts. So that's where you can see that decrease in certificated salaries. Some of that goes to those services and other operating. That's where those contracts go, but then that's also legal fees. And they kind of all, oh, there we go. And then other outgo, 2,500 to 193,000. That's county program tuition. And then we have a reduction in indirect costs. There's no change. So total expenditures, we estimated 41.27 and we're at 41.93. Multi-year projections, the following were developed according to these overarching goals, which were stated to be the goals of the board. So we're looking at how we want to take these into the future. Eliminate deficit spending, enhance our student educational programs, and provide for future employee compensation. So the assumptions are that there are going to be changes in enrollment and student attendance ADA. So we saw that at the ADA slide. There's going to be automatic salary increases based on longevity, based on those step increases. There will be increases of employee medical benefits. We've built in the anticipation of an 8% increase that's fully district paid, so not withstanding anything else, that's just built in. Staffing to contract language, reduction of special education costs, and utilization of any one-time grant funding that expires. We want to fully utilize all that money and not leave anything on the table. And we also assume that there's going to be a new social studies textbook adoption next year, utilizing that block grant. So based on those assumptions, this is the multi-year projection for this year, next year, and 27-28. So our revenues, as we stated, was 40.27 million. 26-27 is 40.81, and 27-28 is 41.0 million. And that's adjusted for the anticipated COLA and student ADA. Our expenses would be 41.9, 40.89, and then 40.54 for tech. That's including the textbooks and our special education contracts. So we're hoping to reduce those contracts, but still offset that with the textbooks. So there will still be that spending from there. The deficit spending, right now, we do have deficit spending. We're not going to hide that from you. That's the fact. It's there. So we are hoping to reduce that. It continues slightly in 26-27, but can be eliminated by 27-28. The beginning balance is 4.891 million. 26-27, it would be 4.598 million, and 27-28, 4.514. The ending balance would be 4.598 million. 26-27, 4.514 million, and 27-28, 4.976 million. Restricted, 4.145 million. 26-27, 3.71 million, and 27-28, 4.163 million. The unrestricted is 1.3, 26-27 unrestricted 1.7, and 27-28 is 1.7. So one of the things this year is going down to that 3% reserve to reduce the deficit spend. We're trying to get out of that deficit and then build it back up over the next couple of years, back up to 4.19 and then 4.31, and then build that reserve back up. Factors impacting the multi-year, the federal and state funding, having that get cut hurt. Making sure that our students' needs are being met. We cannot cut our students' needs. The impact of declining enrollment happened faster than projected. So that reduced our ADA. We have increased needs of our students in special education. And so those are needs that we have to address. And that was an increased cost. There was also inflation hitting us with health, utilities, property insurance. So those are increased costs that we're not projected into the original budget. We also have had natural disasters like insurance claims, those things that have been hitting. And then other anticipated costs for claims, settlements, legal fees have hit our budget as well. So other district restricted funds. So these are our other funds that you'll see in these Fund 13, 14, 17. So those, when you look at the packet, these are the additional forms. The Child Nutrition Fund had a beginning balance of 1.8 million, projected balance of 1.8 million. So this is restricted just for the use of food and nutrition. Deferred Maintenance Fund, beginning balance of 91,000, projected balance of 176,000. So that's used for repair, plumbing, heating, electrical, roofing, flooring. Fund 17, Special Reserve, that's other than capital projects, 867,000, projected balance of 893,000. And that is required to have a 3% reserve. Fund 20 is retiree at 1.01 million, projected balance 1.04 million, and that's for our retiree health benefits. Fund 21 is our building fund, beginning balance of 26.9 million, projected balance at 12.47 million, and that's proceeds from our bonds, and that goes into our facility master plan project. So we are using those appropriately to support our master plan. 25 is capital facilities, beginning balance of 146,000 down to 11,000. And so those are fees levied on development of Pacifica, restricted for facility expansion improvement projects. Fund 40 special reserve for capital outlay, 3.02 million to 3.1 million. So that's sale of site funds, facility use, expenditures for workforce housing. And so that goes into those types of projects. So certification, you have options to certify in 3 ways. You can do a positive certification, which means Pacifica School District will meet financial obligations for this year and 2 subsequent years. We'll be able to pay bills for 3 years. Qualified may not meet its financial obligation for this year and 2 subsequent years, or negative, unable to meet financial obligation for the current year and 2 subsequent years. So recommendation is to self-certify as positive. We will be able to pay our bills. We will be able to do that. And we will be able to do that for 2 years. So first interim projections indicate that as defined in AB 1200, the district will have a positive cash balance, meet its financial obligations for the first fiscal year and 2 subsequent fiscal years. And so board approval of the 25-26 first interim budget and financial report, including multi-year projections for 26, 27, and 27, 28. So our next steps is to request your approval. In February, we have the audit report. So that would be our next steps, is we process it in January and then present it in February. Preparation of the second interim happens in February and March. And then we do budget planning in 26, 27 using estimated actuals and the preparation of the LCAP, and then the development of the 27, 28, and 28, 29 multi-year projections. And all of this includes feedback also using community roundtables, which will be starting in January. So I want to make sure that feedback is reflected and that those are happening starting in January. Okay.
Okay, are there any questions?
I have a question. What happens if we self-certify as qualified?
That means that we don't have the financial means to pay our bills and sorry.
What are the consequences of that?
So Dusty.
Hi,
everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So if a district self-certifies as qualified, or if the county office were to change your certification from positive to qualified, you would receive a letter from the county stating that they want a budget stabilization plan. That's at first interim. If at second interim, you also are qualified, then you will have the same condition. You need a budget stabilization plan. There will be a third interim requirement, which would come to the board right around June 1st. And very closely related right after that, you would be developing your adopted budget. So a third interim and that budget stabilization plan would all have to be ready by June in order to present a balanced budget.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask at what point the state steps in. It takes a few years, right?
Yeah, the state steps in, state and county step in if you were negative. So negative would mean we can't meet our obligations this year, we can't meet them next year, we can't meet them the following year, and we have no viable plan to be able to make enough budget cuts to be able to do that. It does take, there is a cycle. You'd have to go through a disapproved budget, which would be next June, July, August, before that any of that would happen. Or if you self-qualified negative, which means you're not going to be able to meet any of those certification criteria, then the state doesn't just come in, but the county gets involved, the state gets involved, and they start to make some additional requirements on the district to have a budget solution.
Thank you for the reminder about that. Thanks.
I have a question. Maybe Dusty might have just the, so I did notice, our deficit spending is way down and I'm happy about that. And I'm just wondering, there it is. We were at 3.5 last year, right? And now we're at, 300,000 or whatever. So I think that is a good thing. I'm just wondering how we're going to focus on that this year too. I think that's all I really had for the deficit spending.
Do you want the live action steps?
I was just wondering where we would be today if we didn't take all of the action that we did. And maybe that's something for Dusty.
We definitely wouldn't be at a positive certification, most likely. I mean, I can't go back and tell the future, but because we were able to make the changes we were able to eliminate the history of deficit spending. We still have two areas where we are negative. One is special education, which is always a growing entity, and kids' needs and services. And so we're always looking at that. And then the other one is the legal fees. So we've been in the situation, multiple situations where our legal fees have increased. And even though budgeted for the increase, they continue to grow. And so we are working with all of our parties and the different organizations, hopefully to see a decrease in that. And we're using other resources that hopefully outside of the legal fee, but due to like some of the settlements and legal cases, we don't have a lot of leeway, but we are looking into that. And I would say for special education, it is always a growing entity, but we're working very hard to make sure that we get PSD staff instead of the contracted staff. Martha worked really hard. We had contracted paraeducators who were making over 100 and some thousand last year, and we were able to do contracts in the 50s. And so again, it's a larger amount than what we were that we want to pay, but we are definitely looking at that, and we're looking at it continuously. And then we have a lot of kids that are at non-public, and if that's what their need, then that's where we want our kids to go. But we want to make sure we're doing it with all the FADE plans and different things in place. So we're looking at every aspect of both of those areas.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there, let's see, any more questions?
Thanks for doing that presentation, Stacy.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Do I have a motion to approve the positive certification of the 2025-2026 first interim financial report? Oh. Okay, second. All right.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
All right, thank you. All right, next will be Stacy again. approval of the superintendent search timeline and leadership profile.
Okay, so in your packets, you have timeline underway. I just want to make sure that we are running along swimmingly and report out on the profile. So over this last week, well, the last like week and a half, we've had a survey out to the public. There is a superintendent search webpage that is publicly posted. And on that webpage, which was also linked to every single school site as well, and it was also sent out via Parent Square. There were surveys sent out to the public, and there was also focus groups held for staff members, for public groups, for I held one-on-ones with board members. And all in all, we got community, and I'm going to kind of put these in big pots because I feel that anonymity is a huge part of this process. Anonymity, but also sharing who collaborated. We had 44 staff participants, 40 parent participants, and 6 community members. And through that, they created the following community engagement findings. So the report in front of you represents the findings from the community engagement phase of the superintendent search process. The data in this report was obtained from an in-person focus group meeting and online survey. While the data in this report is not a scientific sampling, the information represents consistent feedback with themes heard across the groups and from members within the group. Each engagement session used the 3 same questions. What are the best things about Pacifica School District that might draw a superintendent to want to work in the district? What issues or needs is the district facing in the next few years that an incoming superintendent should be aware of? And what qualities and characteristics are important for Pacifica School District's next superintendent to be successful in the role? So the strengths, and I'm just going to kind of summarize this. So the strength, because you have the report in front of you, the strengths were 3 universal themes: collective responsibility for, strengths were the small town culture, the exceptional coastal setting, and quality of life. They highlighted natural beauty and being a part of the Greater Bay Area, making it an attractive place to work. And so just really the strength of what Pacifica is. Additional strength of PSD as itself, 3 universal themes emerged: the collective responsibility for student success, talking about the tight-knit community, high value placed on relationships, families, educators, community members know each other well, name, face, dedicated educators and staff care deeply about students and families. Many employees live here in the community, have long-standing ties to it, high retention rates, institutional knowledge, culture of collaboration. Highly engaged families and community partners. They're highly involved in supporting schools through volunteerism, advocacy, financial support, including parcel taxes, bonds, fundraising efforts. So those are our 3 themes and what makes PSD great. Moving on to the second question as to district issues and needs. There were 4 main themes that emerged. I tried to do 3 of each, but sometimes you just have to edge it up. Fiscal uncertainty and long-term stability was the first one, driven by declining enrollment, limited state funding, budget deficits, mentions of potential charter school development, legal expenses, funding uncertainty, demographic shifts were all included in responses. Credibility, second point was credibility, communication, and community division. Issues surrounding school closures, co-locations, leadership departures, board recall efforts, charter school efforts, led to eroded trust, fractured relationships. Most families remain supportive, but there's polarization, heightened emotions. Next point was leadership turnover and systems coherence. They mentioned that there's been a frequent turnover at the superintendent, cabinet, site administration, and district office levels. Many leaders are new, serving interim roles, resulting in role confusion, stretched capacity, inconsistent implementation, and lack of institutional continuity. Fourth point was staff morale and workforce challenges. PSD employees remain deeply committed to the district, even though there's low compensation, housing costs, and workload pressures, which make recruitment and retention difficult, especially in the areas of special education, student support, classified roles, and hard to fill positions. So the desired qualities and characteristics of the next superintendent, along with the strengths, issues, and needs, we need somebody, they stated, who leads with integrity, visibility, and compassion, brings strong fiscal and operational expertise, and is committed to rebuilding trust and stability as they guide the district towards a sustainable future. Universal attribute, then these are things that, again, have been repeated through the findings in the survey as well as the focus groups, is authentic, personable, calm, wear multiple hats, provides clear, honest, compassionate, and timely communication, listens to all voices before acting, follows through on commitments and decisions, champions employee engagement and well-being, can mentor, develop, and retain leaders, maintains a presence in schools, classrooms, and community events, has proven experience in fiscal management and HR practices, knowledge of special education and compliance issues, provides stability systems and coherence across the organization, is committed to equity, inclusion, and student well-being, respects the history, values, and culture of the district, engages effectively with the board, providing sound recommendations and guidance, and maintains a long-term commitment to the district. Most of all, I want to thank everybody out in the community watching, everyone who took part in the engagement sessions and completed the online survey. And it's really important for the board to hear all this feedback to help move on to the next phase. This is submitted to the board for recommendation to publicly post this as part of the search. And if we want to continue with the approved timeline.
Are there any questions? We'll just go ahead. Do we have a motion to approve the superintendent search timeline and leadership profile? Okay.
Second.
All right.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
So the next steps is in the search is Barbara will reach out to you for the next steps.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine. I've been up here too long at this point. Thank you.
Okay, employment agreement for interim director of finance. Rachel Romo.
Hi. Thank you. So we have the employment agreement for the interim director of finance, Dr. Stacy Stoffer. And you have it. It was one of the attachments, but also California Government Code Section 54953C3 requires that a verbal summary of the proposed compensation and fringe benefits be given to the public before the final board action on certain employment agreements. The proposed agreement for the following is Interim Director of Finance, Dr. Stacy Stoffer. So I'll be reading a couple of items that are in the contract. Just bear with me. So number 1 is term. The district employee to perform duties as the interim director of financial services for a term commencing on November 3rd, 2025 through and including June 30th, 2026. Number 2, salary. Effective retroactive to November 3rd, 2025, employees shall be compensated an annual salary of $175,636, which includes a master's degree stipend of $1,000 and doctoral degree stipend of $2,000. Item 3, Interim Director of Financial Services. Employee will perform all duties and the functions of the Interim Director of Financial Services as provided in the district's Interim Director of Financial Services job description, as directed by the Interim Superintendent, and consistent with all applicable board policies and regulations and applicable laws for this position. It is understood that the demands of this position will require employee to average more than an 8-hour workday or a 40-hour work week. Therefore, the parties agree that the employee shall not be entitled to overtime compensation. 6, vacation. Employee has a 261-day work year consisting of 220 base service days, 16 holidays, and 25 vacation days. Any earned but unused vacation days shall be paid to the employee upon conclusion or termination of the agreement. Item 7, sick leave. Employees shall, during the term of this agreement, earn and accrue 1.5 days of sick leave with pay for each full month of service rendered. Time off required by the employee for illness or injury, which is not covered by earned and accrued sick leave. I have some cough drops in my backpack, sorry. If you want to get in my backpack, it's right under there's cough drops. There's a bag of them. Sorry. Time off required by the employee for illness or injury, which is not covered by earned and accrued sick leave with pay, earned and accrued vacation with pay, or other paid leaves as provided for by law, shall be uncompensated. The district shall be authorized to require verification of sick leave and vacation usage from time to time as is deemed appropriate. Item 8, healthcare benefits. Employees shall be entitled to healthcare coverage under the same group, medical, dental, optical, and other group health insurance plans as are provided by the district to other cabinet management employees on the same terms and conditions, and subject to the same copays, deductibles, and premium payment requirements as those benefits may change from time to time through board action. If this agreement is terminated prior to June 30th, 2026, employees shall receive 30 days of healthcare coverage. Item 9, holidays. Employees shall be entitled to the same number and types of holidays as are provided to other management personnel. Item 10, expense reimbursements. The district shall reimburse the employer for actual and necessary expenses incurred within the scope of the employee's employment, so long as such expenses are permitted by district policy or incurred with prior approval of the interim superintendent. For reimbursement, the employee shall submit an expense claim in writing supported by appropriate written documentation to the interim superintendent. Item 11, fringe benefits. Effective November 3rd, 2025, the interim director of financial services shall be entitled to the same life insurance benefits, mileage stipends, and reimbursements, and applicable degree stipends as those provided to other district management employees. In addition, the interim director of financial services shall be entitled to the following: A, cell phone. Effective November 3rd, 2025, the interim director of financial services shall be entitled to a district-provided cell phone and cellular service consistent with board policy 3513.1. Thank you. Are there any questions on this employment agreement for interim director of finance, Dr. Stacy Stoffer?
All right. Can I make, with that, do we have a motion to approve? All right, wait a second.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. Congratulations. Do we want speech? Do we want speech? Okay.
Don't make her come up again.
I've said so much tonight. Thank you for letting me continue to play with numbers. As you can tell from my excitement over the pie chart, I really like doing this. So thank you.
Thank you.
He thinks LCAP is fun as well.
Okay. All right. So moving on to our next item is the employment agreement of the interim executive director of educational support services. Rachel.
Yes, so another agreement. On October 1st, 2025, the Board of Trustees approved an employment agreement for the position of interim co-executive director of educational support services for Dr. Carla Chavez Torres. That agreement has now been revised to reflect the current title of this position, which is interim executive director of educational support services. So California Government Code Section 54953C3 requires that a verbal summary of the proposed compensation and fringe benefits be given to the public before the final board action on certain employment agreements. The proposed agreement for the following: Interim Executive Director of Educational Support Services, Dr. Carla Chavez Torres. It contains the following material terms. Number 1, the district employs employee to perform duties as the interim executive director of educational support services for a term commencing on September 10th, 2025 through and including June 30th, 2026. 2, salary. Effective retroactive on September 10th, 2025, employees shall be compensated an annual salary of $186,150, which includes stipends for a master's degree, $1,000, and a doctorate degree, $2,000. Number 3, interim executive director of educational support services. The employee will perform all duties and the functions of the interim executive director of educational support services as provided in the district's interim executive director of educational support services job description, as directed by the interim superintendent, and consistent with all applicable board policies and regulations and applicable laws for this position. It is understood that the demands of this position will require employees to average more than an 8-hour workday or 40-hour work week. Therefore, the parties agree that employees shall not be entitled to overtime compensation. Item 6, vacation. Employee has 261 workday calendar workday year consisting of 220 base service days, 16 holidays, and 25 vacation days. Any earned but unused vacation days shall be paid to employee upon conclusion or termination of the agreement. Item 7, sick leave. Employee shall, during the term of this agreement, earn and accrue 1.5 days of sick leave with pay for each full month of service rendered. Time off required by the employee for illness or injury, which is not covered by earned and accrued sick leave with pay, earned and accrued vacation with pay, or other paid leaves as provided for by law, shall be uncompensated. The district shall be authorized to require verification of sick leave and vacation usage from time to time as is deemed appropriate. Item 8, healthcare benefits. Employees shall be entitled to healthcare coverage under the same group medical, dental, optical, and other group health insurance plans as are provided by the district to other cabinet management employees on the same terms and conditions and subject to the same copays, deductibles, and premium payment requirements as those benefits may change from time to time through board action. If this agreement is terminated before June 30th, 2026, employees shall receive 30 days of healthcare coverage. 9, holidays. Employees shall be entitled to the same number and types of holidays as are provided to other management personnel. 10, expense reimbursement. The district shall reimburse the employee for actual and necessary expenses incurred within the scope of the employee's employment, so long as such expenses are permitted by district policy or incurred with prior approval by the interim superintendent. For reimbursement, the employee shall submit the expense claim in writing, supported by appropriate written documentation to the interim superintendent. 11, fringe benefits. Effective July 1, 2025, the interim executive director of educational support services shall be entitled to the same life insurance benefits, mileage stipends, and reimbursements, and applicable degree stipends as those provided to other district management employees. In addition, the interim executive director of educational support services shall be entitled to the following: A, cell phone. Effective July 1, 2025, the interim executive director of educational support services shall be entitled to a district's provided cell phone and cellular service consistent with board policy 3513.1. With that update, it is recommended that the board approves this updated employment agreement for the interim executive director of educational support services, Dr. Carla Chavez Torres.
Are there any questions? All right, do I have a motion to approve the employment agreement of the interim executive director of educational support services? All right, a second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
Yeah, thank you.
Speech.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
CSCA and LSCA seniority lists.
Yes, so we're recommending verified seniority lists for classified and certificated employees to be approved by the Board of Trustees tonight. Each year, the seniority lists for both certificated and classified employees are prepared with all permanent and probationary classified members, whether represented or not by the union, and include all classifications and length of service in each position. Length of service is either hours and paid status or negotiated date of hire defined in the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement. The seniority lists are then circulated to the respective employees to be updated. This school year, each respective seniority list was distributed to all employees via hard copy in the staff room at the school site. Employees have the opportunity to confirm their seniority information from December 4th, 2025 through December 11th, 2025. The Human Resources Department of the Pacifica School District reviewed and revised the seniority lists as needed based on the responses from the employees. This circulation and updating of seniority lists is an annual process. And the employee seniority lists for certificated and classifieds are attached to this agenda. So it is recommended that the Board of Trustees adopts the Pacifica School District certificated and classified seniority lists. Are there any questions?
Any questions? All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion?
A second?
All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just make a comment?
Too late.
Well, looking at it, I see that the first person on the LSCA list is my daughter's kindergarten teacher. And so it just brings us back to how long our educators have been here. And I just wanted to say that I really appreciate them. And I also see one of our principals too on there. So they started in the late 1900s. When you
It might
said
feel
that,
like
it's-
All right, thank you. All right. All right, last thing is the changes to the, or I guess almost last thing, changes to 2025, 2026 regular board meeting schedule.
Thank you. It is recommended the board approve the proposed updated regular board meeting schedule for the remainder of the school year. I'm pretty loud. You can probably still hear me. On April 1st, there was a meeting scheduled. We are recommending to cancel that because there are 2 meetings scheduled for April, but adding a meeting at the end of June for June 24th, which allows us to meet the budget and the LCAP timelines for approval. So it's recommended that the board approve this updated regular board schedule for the remainder of the school year.
Are there any questions? Does someone like to make a motion? Okay. Second?
All in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board of Trustees, Superintendent's recap and future agenda items. We have anything, anyone? Recap, anything we want to add for future agendas?
I just want to thank the PTOs again for coming and sharing their information with us, and like the seniority lists, that we really appreciate our teachers too.
And then just in regards to future agenda items, you will be receiving a special education update and then a school climate survey update coming in the next couple of meetings, as well as Measure O and G bond money and facility update.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn at 8:29.